extended through mid-March, and we have the direct payments coming in. In addition, there are significant funds coming in for vaccine distribution and for the COVID itself. The package that the president has submitted that we are going to take up next week, this coming week, will provide $1.9 trillion of relief. We expect to get that moving through either a bipartisan agreement or through what's a process known as budget reconciliation, so that we can get the aid out quickly, because we know there is a desperate need in regards to vaccine production and distribution and to deal with the crisis of the COVID-19. So we are down to work. We will also at the same time deal with the impeachment trial in the Senate, which will start on February the 9th. It's an obligation we have. No one's above the law. Everyone responsible for the insurrection should be held accountable, including the President of the United States. And we'll take that up starting in 2 weeks. So we have a very busy agenda. I know you're down to work in a different way. So I just wanted you to know we want to work with you, try to help you any way we can. And Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to take some friendly questions, or if you want to move on with your agenda, I fully understand.
Thank you, Senator. I know I have a brief question as far as is there a national rollout or a plan for the vaccine? My issue is a lot of the underserved communities are assumed to always be inner city. In Southern Maryland especially, we have a lot of underserved communities that are rural. These are medically neglected communities, and we're very desperate for medical attention on a good day. Is there some national plan to ensure that our rural poor, not just those in the inner Baltimore and inside the Beltway, but that they have access to this vaccine as soon as possible?
CT, that's a very important question. Thank you for raising it, because the numbers are not very encouraging right now in the distribution in the underserved communities. Let me be clear. Under Donald Trump, there was no plan whatsoever for any part of COVID-19, whether it was the public health message, whether it was the use of protective equipment or masks, or whether it was vaccine distribution and how it should be distributed. There was no direction. What the Trump administration did was deliver a certain number of vaccine doses on the doorsteps of the states with very little direction or very little predictability as to how the supply chain would be handled. Well, that changed on January the 20th. There's now, under President Biden, there's going to be much more direct communications with the states and much more direction. And part of that effort is to make sure the underserved community is not left behind. We have a dual problem. First, there's more people eligible to get the vaccine than there are doses available. So therefore, there's a backlog. And depending on where you go or how lucky you are or what connections you have, you're getting vaccines today where other people are waiting in line and cannot get an appointment. So now you have the underserved community that doesn't even know how to access the vaccines or has suspicions about how government has operated in the past and are really reluctant to even get involved in the system. They need outreach, they need help. And we need a strategy to reach that community. So we are very much committed to making sure there's a game plan to deal with the underserved community. Look, I think it was difficult for the state to come in and figure out a distribution plan because of the federal misguidance or lack of guidance, but the state did not do a good job on this. There hasn't been the transparency that we need from the state of Maryland as to how people access and what type of strategies do we have to reach the underserved community. Last week, our congressional delegation met with the acting Secretary of Health in Maryland to voice our concerns about that. They came up with some plans that they plan to announce shortly to deal with the underserved community. We're going to be watching them closely, and I think you're going to find direction coming out of Washington to make sure that we have outreach to the underserved community, that we have mobile vans, that we go into the community, that we have people who have credibility in the community making that message so we get people vaccinated. So we're going to make efforts to make sure we reach all communities, and you're correct. It's not urban centers, it's throughout our state that we have underserved communities.
Thank you, Senator. And one brief follow-up before I take questions, Senator Ellis, I see your hand. As far as a public service announcement, I know that especially in the minority communities, when I got my vaccine the other day, I received quite a bit of negative feedback from individuals who don't understand that the polio vaccine was 80, 100 years ago, and believe that anything, because it doesn't take 5 or 10 years anymore, that somehow this is not a true vaccine? Or are we doing anything about a national public service announcement to dispel the rumors, myths, display our technology and technological advances as a country and a society, to basically ensure that these individuals, once it's available, will actually step up and take the vaccine? Because everybody I know, people in my gym, educated people, saying they're going to wait 3 months, they're going to wait 6 months. Text, how are you feeling? Because there's a huge lack of trust. And is there any public service announcement, anything planned on a national level to endear and engender the trust of our populace?
I talked yesterday with Dr. Carter, who's the Prince George's County health officer, about that very point of what he's doing. And he has he is doing that, and he is reaching out to the community. And his point is that people who are known in the community have the credibility, and they're the ones who have to get the message. I also talked to Dr. Sharfstein, the former Secretary of Health of Maryland, and his point is the risk factors of taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine are so lopsided in favor of taking the vaccine that he encourages everyone who's eligible to get the vaccine as soon as you can get it. So those messages will be coming out. You'll see some help at the federal level, and you'll see much stronger direction to the state and local governments to reach out to those communities who have a trust issue as it relates to information they've received in the past from the federal government or from governments in regards to vaccination. So yes, there is this effort that will be made.
Oh, thank you very much, Senator. I'll go on with some of the other questions. Senator Ellis, I know your hand was up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Carlin, good to see you. Thank you for your service. The number one issue on my agenda, of course, is the pandemic and the vaccination system. And Chairman Wilson did a good job asking those questions. So I'll get to my number 2 priority right now is transportation for Southern Maryland. So last year, your office joined with Majority Leader Hoyer and Senator Van Hollen and helped us with the BUILD grant, the grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to do the NEPA for us in Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. So we did not get that grant. We realized that it was a Trump administration decision. When we look at who applied throughout the nation and who received the grants, we understood it was a purely political distribution. For instance, New York applied, I think they had like 30 plus applications in for different projects. They got 0 grants. The big, great state of New York, where I grew up as a toddler and kid. And then New Jersey, another blue state, got 0 grants. Connecticut got 0 grants. Only states that got the grants are, let's say, purple or red states, but Maryland received 1 grant out of several applications. So that's a political decision. So with the change in administration now, with transportation a top priority, and on President Biden's agenda is, how should I say, equity and doing right by African Americans. This light rail passes through Prince George's County, majority African American area. Charles County, which is a lot of African Americans. What's your position to really look at the transportation issue to help us resolve it with the current administration and to get maybe approach to get some transportation funding through a new BUILD grant process?
Senator Ellis, thanks for that question. In the last Congress, I was the ranking Democrat on the infrastructure subcommittee, on the Environment and Public Works Committee. In this Congress, I'm likely to be the chair of that subcommittee, so I'll have some direct role here. As I mentioned earlier, President Biden's priority is to build back better. And I said fairer. I added fairer to that because we have seen, as you pointed out, discrimination, systemic discrimination in America in so many different ways. It's not just policing. It's also in economic opportunity. It's also in healthcare. And where transportation projects are funded very much determines economic opportunity. And we are very much focused on a larger commitment to infrastructure, but also fair allocations. I am very much mindful of the need for rapid transit in Southern Maryland. That's going to be a priority for us. And I can tell you with Senator Van Hollen and Congressman Hoyer, that is our priority. So we're going to be working very closely to try to get that done. We don't know whether there's going to be congressional earmarks or we're going to have to work with the administration, but we're prepared to move in either direction. If there's earmarks, that gives us greater direct input. If not, we'll work with Secretary Buttigieg, and he will be confirmed on Tuesday, so he'll be the Secretary of Transportation. I also want to mention other issues like the FBI location. We saw how Donald Trump, with personal conflicts, blocked the FBI headquarters in Prince George's County. I can tell you that is one of our highest priorities to get that back on track, which will have certainly a direct impact on Prince George's County, but also on Southern Maryland. So we're going to be working very hard on getting the FBI complex back on track.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.
CT.
All right, Jerry, you're next. I'm sorry, Delegate Clark, you're next.
Yeah, thank you very much, CT. Senator, I just want to change up here on a different subject. I've been getting a lot of calls from constituents that in the last few days or weeks started receiving their 1099s on unemployment benefits. And a lot of these folks, as we all know, that we had so many people collecting unemployment benefits, are pretty new to that and have never actually gotten them before. There seems to be some confusion. Governor Hogan in his recovery plan has a bill has suggested that the Maryland state tax would be negated on the unemployment benefits. Is there anything in the federal COVID bill that would negate the federal income tax on the unemployment benefits that these folks received in 2020 or going forward in the future? It just seems to be a point of real confusion for a lot of people.
Doug Clark, thank you for that question. I serve on the Finance Committee, so I serve on the Tax Writing Committee, and we anticipate taking up the tax code for fairness, not in the next week. It's not going to be done during the first round, but during the second round, which will be a couple months from now. So we probably will not have much information prior to the filing of the April tax returns. I don't think there'll be any significant changes in that regard before April, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Stay tuned. We are looking for a fair tax code. The 2017 tax code passed by President Trump and the Republicans was skewed towards high income and big business. We want to help the average families, the middle class families. And clearly those people who are living with the unemployment checks are in need of additional help. There's no question about it. So we're looking at different ways. As you know, President Biden has put forward a proposal that would increase the direct payment from $600 to $2,000 for every family that with incomes, individuals, $75,000, married couples, $150,000 and lower, looking for things that will help deal with these issues. The issue of the taxability of unemployment benefits will certainly be an issue we will talk about, but at this particular moment, I'm not aware of any active legislation that is likely to pass shortly that would affect that, but that could change overnight. We will get to budget reconciliation as early as 2 or 3 weeks from now. So but I do not believe that's one of the issues. There's also issues that would increase the child credit and the earned income tax credit. I don't know if that'll get into the first round. It might get into the second round, but that was in the president's $1.9 trillion package. He did have an increase in the child credit and the earned income tax credit.
One quick follow-up, if I may. So your suggestion to these folks would be go ahead and be prepared to pay the tax on their unemployment benefits for the year 2020, at least at the federal level.
Yes, I would advise them to follow the current tax provisions for 2020. I think it's going to be difficult to get that changed for their 2020 tax liability. I would recommend that they follow that. If it's changed, they'll get a refund, but I think that's unlikely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? All right, Senator, I know, oh, I'm sorry, I see one more.
Deborah.
Delegate Davis, go ahead. And put your hand down, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Cardin, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time. You mentioned, oh, and first of all, be safe.
Yeah.
We're praying for your safety.
Thank you, Delegate.
You mentioned the disparity in policing. That happens to be one of the things I've taken up in the State House. We're doing our part here, but a lot of the equity, a lot of the issues are at the federal level, and qualified immunity, stuff like that are going to be coming before you. And we just hope we can count on your support in those areas. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a original co-sponsor of the Justice and Policing Act. I am the lead sponsor of the End Racial and Religious Profiling Act and the Law Enforcement Integrity and Trust Act, which are two major parts of the Justice and Policing Act that deals with the issues you're talking about. President Biden made that a major part of his campaign, but I want to broaden this. So Delegate Davis, understand, I want to deal with the systemic racism and discrimination problems we have in our society. I'm going to have a direct opportunity to do that on economic issues as chairman of the Small Business Committee. I've had wonderful discussions with Secretary Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, with the Mrs. Guzman, who will be the administrator of the Small Business Administration, about how we target the aid to deal with the underserved, underbanked minority communities with economic opportunities. So we are really looking at it. Also in healthcare, I'm one of the principal sponsors of dealing with the discrimination we saw, which really came to light during COVID-19, but we all knew about it ahead of time, discrimination in our healthcare system. So it's a much broader agenda, but justice and policing is clearly one that we put a spotlight on it in last year, and we're going to do something about it in this Congress.
Are there any other questions? Well, good Senator, thank you for your time. I know you have other meetings to attend to, so I think we're good. I'll definitely be reaching out to your office with some additional follow-up as far as our COVID relief in addition to our transportation issues. So thank you very much.
CD, thank you, and thanks for the time. Stay safe, everyone. Have a productive session.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, if we can move on. We've heard from our senator, so I know I need a vote for the approval of the minutes from January 22nd. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Do I have a second? Thank you. Okay, the meetings have been, the approval the minutes have been adopted. All right, now and again, I told you guys before, we're trying to make these meetings as succinct as possible. And again, I apologize for my speech impediment. These braces are killing me, but I kind of sound like Senator Jackson, so I'll go ahead and roll with that. We both have that list now, Senator. But the first thing I wanted to ask is, I put in a request. I realized at some point it does impact the entire delegation. I'm sorry, the entire Southern Maryland delegation, and I apologize for that. It was kind of a last minute thing. I know Deb and Jack also have a bill that affects everyone, and they brought it to our attention too. My bill is Bill 648. It's a cross file from Senator Steve Hershey. It's 561. And we don't have to vote on it this week, but I was looking for a letter of support for this bill. And it's basically a bill, and there may be contention. So if we want to discuss it, if we want to wait till you guys read it and bring it back next week for a discussion, I'm fine with whatever, but basically it allows SMETCO, which serves all of us, as well as Chop Tank, to have virtual meetings as well as in person, and the combination to ensure that they have a quorum of 50 members in attendance. And guys, my argument for this is, and I'm hoping we can do this on a much broader scale, including maybe even delegation meetings, where even once we get through our pandemic, we're learning that, virtual meetings aren't always the worst thing. It saves on traffic, saves on time, transportation issues, And I think Smetco and Chop Tank want to be able to continue on the virtual / in-person or the combination thereof. And if this bill is passed in 2021, obviously this will force them to, or they will be allowed to change their bylaws, and it will be implemented in the 2022 meeting. This is the bill that I put in. It is a delegation bill. I realize that now in hindsight. If people have issue with it, we can either discuss it now, or you can review and we can bring it back in our next meeting. Do I have any suggestions?
Good
Was
morning.
my mic on?
Your mic is on. Good morning. Sorry, I was late zooming in, had some problems getting in. But Delegate Wilson, what is the timeline? When is this bill being heard?
Not next week. I think it's got a few weeks.
It's going to be on excuse me, Chairman, it's on February 11th in ECM. Yours will be heard.
Okay.
There we go. And so it's not that big of a rush. And again, guys, what I don't want to do is put a bill in that there's such a disagreement on. Again, I know this bill is, I think it was put in last year, and it's, it's a bipartisan bill. I mean, if you guys want to consider Hershey a Republican, and I would like to see our support, or at least a discussion as why there might be some problems with the bill. You can tell him I said that, Jack. Does anybody have any input?
Yeah, I have a question, Arthur Ellis. So what's that bill number, Mr.
Again,
Chairman?
the bill number is 648. I do believe it was,
House bill?
if I'm wrong, I will make sure it gets sent out. It's House Bill 648 or Bill 51.
51.
Yes, Senate Bill 51, House Bill 648.
And so what does the bill have to do with now? Is it strictly Smetco or
I apologize, Senator. I'm reading two different ones. It is House Bill 648, Senate Bill 561.
Okay,
I apologize.
Oh, no problem. And so what's the subject matter with this bill?
Subject matter with the bill is allowing, it's for co-ops, so it's Chop Tank and Smetco, allowing them to have their annually meetings, right? Allowing them to have them virtual or to have them in person or a combination thereof in order to get the requisite 50 person quorum.
Okay, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. But not just, this is not just during COVID, this is forward looking.
Okay, I have no problem with that. That's a simple bill. I mean, I'll be prepared to vote on it today. I mean, we don't have to wait.
Does anybody Delegate Proctor, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we getting pushback for this bill at all?
No, I just realized that it was a delegation bill kind of late, how we're flying by the seat of our pants. And I didn't want to just put a bill in that infects entire Southern Maryland without getting Southern Maryland support.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Do you guys want to vote on it today? Do you need a week? I'm not trying to, trick anybody or force the rush.
I'd like to.
Go ahead.
I'd like to
Yes,
make a
please.
motion that we support the bill, and if nothing else, we can have a discussion now.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any opposition to this bill? I'm sorry, Matt, you raised your hand. I like the way you colored your hand, by the way, Matt. I like that.
Yeah, it matches me. I'm just surprised everybody else is surprised that you asked their opinion.
Thank you very, very much. Delegate Patterson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Delegate Wilson, I have a copy of the bill, and I too feel that it is a bill that we can support without any question. So, I know we have a second, so I just want to say I support the bill.
All right, thank you very much. Jack?
So thank you, CT, for bringing this forward and asking for this. But I do think if I'm correct in the fact that we are not meeting next Friday. So if we're not meeting next Friday, we should go ahead and move this bill and motion this, because if not, you're not going to have the letter for your hearing.
Well, I was just going to make us meet next Friday, but no.
Okay.
But that would be great. Is there any opposition to a letter of support from the Southern Maryland delegation in support of House Bill 648, Senate Bill 561? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We will be filing a letter of support for this bill. The second bill request, we need a letter of support, is from Senator Bailey and Delegate Davis. It's property management, Southern Maryland Regional Agricultural Center. It's House Bill 51, Senate Bill 51, House Bill 631. Would either of you like to explain this bill briefly to the delegation?
I'd be more than happy to go ahead and explain it. This is simply a technical change. Back when the Tri-County Council was first formed, and the statutory language did not allow the fact that the RAC that's being built in northern St. Mary's County, that could be actually managed by SMATIC. The county would have had to manage SMATIC, and SMATIC is so involved in this. This gives it's a technical change, and the MOUs that every county already signed and agreed to on the RAC. This just pulls the statutory language in line with the MOUs. I don't think this is that big of a deal. Presented it to St. Mary's County. We got a letter of support from the county. They are fine that SMATIC goes ahead and runs it, and it is in line with the MOU that everybody else did.
Okay, and I think Joy's trying to get me to fight her this morning. It's House Bill 639, not House Bill 631. Delegate Davis's bill is House Bill 639. We'll punish Joy later. Is there any is there a motion for a letter of support on this bill, or any discussion first?
I have a
Delegate Wilson.
discussion, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
So,
Senator Ellis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me if I missed it. Did he say you have a support from all the 3 county commissioners, Board of County Commissioners?
That I don't know. This was just our delegation's letter of support, because, and I will say this, Senator, I would assume that both chairmen in both committees would be asking that question in addition to the support or not. If you want our support to be contingent upon all 3 counties supporting it, we can dig further.
Well, I'm thinking we should reach out to the commissioners to make sure they are aware of what's going on. I don't have that feel, so I wouldn't really want to go forward with this one at this time.
I can speak for Charles County, that they are aware and of support. And perhaps, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, if I could give just a little more background.
Please.
Senator Ellis, you're familiar with Tri-County Council, and you're also familiar with Southern Maryland Agricultural Center, right? SMATIC. So we've been fighting for a meat processing center in Southern Maryland for a long time to support our farmers, right? Because at the current time, if they want to process their meat, they have to take their livestock to Virginia or Frederick or something. I don't even remember. So we've been fighting for years to get this thing. So we finally are really, really close to having, working with the Amish to getting meat processed right here. And what's the word for it? The federal agency that puts their stamp on it, USDA?
USDA.
USDA.
Yes. Yeah, so that's about to happen. So the next step is the Regional Agricultural Center, which is a center that would help, as Jack and I spoke the other day, there would be value add processing So the Amish can only process the meat and hang the meat. Somebody else has to make the sausage. And so the counties have gotten together and put out a RIP, what's the word? Anyway, to put out
RFP.
a proposal to
Right.
to get to fund a RAC, a regional agricultural center. St. Mary's won that approval. Jack got money last year to help fund it, to get the RAC set up in St. Mary's. Everybody agrees it's in St. Mary's. All three counties agree that it's in St. Mary's. But Tri-County Council and SMATEC doesn't have the authority to lease the building out. St. Mary's doesn't want to lease it. They don't want to manage the RAC. They don't want the headaches of managing it. So SMATEC and TCC, Tri-County Council, are going to manage it, rent it out, do what they need to do. So they just don't have the authority to do it now. And this bill would simply give them the authority to do it.
Okay, I understand that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, when is the bill hearing? I just want to know the timeline for us. When is the bill hearing?
You
If you don't know, no worries. I just want to make sure it's not next week.
In the House, it's the beginning of the following week, not next. It's the first week in February.
Okay.
That's why we wanted it on the thing. And quite frankly, just to add, with Delegate Davis, Senator, the issue is the counties already approved and signed the MOUs with everybody's support. Everybody is involved and engaged with this process. What happened was, as we went to put it in play last year, the Attorney General said, we found a technical change that said we can't do this until we make a change. So the SMATEC has been very open with all the counties and the Tri-County Council. That's how this, we missed the filing deadline last year. So that's why it was a pre-filed bill early this year. All three counties are engaged and involved. This just puts in line statutory authority with what is in, with what already exists in the MOUs that everybody has signed.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you for the explanation, Delegate Davis and Senator Bailey. I have a concern though. You know, the thing is, when it comes to issues or priorities of Charles County, we don't get the support of Calvert and St. Mary's with our top priority, transportation. I mean, the last Tri-County meeting with that issue, I heard a hell no. And so the thing is, we are asked to support blindly an issue with a project in St. Mary's County, call it regional and all that stuff. I have an issue with that. If you want us to be partners, you have to be respectful, and you have to support our priorities also while we support yours. Now, I will support this one because I'm not vengeful, but I just want to say that my support will not be unconditional if the St. Mary's and Calvert elected officials are continue to be rude and disrespectful and dismissive of Charles County issues.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Anybody else have any comments on the bill? On the set of bills, I should say. Oh boy.
My hand is raised.
I know, I see Mark's hand. I'm just avoiding it for a minute. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was actually going to just talk about the center that Senator Jackson and Delegate Davis have been working on. Senator Jackson himself has been working on this for years with SMATEC. Delegate Patterson has, Delegate Davis, Delegate Fisher, Delegate Clark, Delegate Morgan. I mean, this has really been like one of those things where we've all actually worked together so hard to put this together. And ironically, in a really kind of interesting way, right? This is we're talking about the meat processing center and then also, of course, the larger ag center itself. As it turned out, Calvert and Charles didn't really want the meat processing center in large, just so you know the history, because obviously it's a pretty unsavory business, as you can imagine. And so the only people that we could get Senator Ellis to take it on were the Amish. And so they're, of course, in St. Mary's, they were willing to take this on. And so then we started talking about this at SMATEC, and I know Delegate Davis and Delegate Patterson and Delegate Morgan Senator Jackson. That sounds very good too, Senator Jackson. We were all talking, and it's like, you know, if you ever been to Annapolis at the Annapolis Harbor Center where they have that Amish market, it's just cool. And that's what they're going to do down there. And it's going to be really, really cool. But the bottom line is none of the other two counties didn't want that, the unsavory part of the facility in their counties. So St. Mary's County was willing to take it on, and then the Amish were. And it's been truly, like, if there were ever an issue where it was bipartisan with all of us, this was probably it. So
Okay.
Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Hold on, because I see other people's hands up. Jack, is your hand really up? Or is that just?
No, I'm good.
Okay, and Delegate Patterson, is your hand up?
Yeah, yes, it is. I think that it's imperative that we listen to what Senator Ellis said and recognize that these are feelings that have to be addressed. With that being said, I do move that we provide a letter of support for this bill, because on yesterday, the Tri-County Council had a meeting, and this was part of the meeting. But members, let's be clear. What he said was from the heart. And as we move forward into a new year, I think that our actions will reflect how we really feel as a Tri-County group. Thank you. And that motion was to move that we support this letter.
And I know before we get a second, I believe Delegate Morgan had a up. Can't hear you, buddy. You gotta turn your BlackBerry up.
I turned my BlackBerry up. This is on my new GameStop computer. Hey, I just want to make a quick comments on what the Senator Ellis said there. Absolutely, I believe that we all should be working as a region. But I just want to remind everyone in the delegation that, you know, regional bills don't start and stop with transportation or agriculture. There's also some very important issues with education, housing, crime. And as we look forward to redistricting in the next couple of years, I look forward to this session and the next session weighing in on many pieces of legislation in Charles County, Calvert, and as a region, because so many of our constituents travel back and forth to both. As a former Charles County resident and personally one of the higher taxpayers in Charles County, I look forward to seeing some of these policies play out.
Well, and thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your tax dollars in Charles County. And
You
I
should.
just colleagues that, you know, to the senator's point, to everyone's point, you know, we are Southern Maryland, and that's not going to change regardless of the redistricting. And while we might have our political differences and we might have our philosophical differences, we always need to use that respect and not be dismissive. And I know we all run into times, you know, I've got one of the shortest tempers up here besides the good delegate Mark Fisher. I think that, you know, it is important that we, bring that down, bring the temperament down, because we really do need each other. You know, Charles County, we're one of the fastest growing counties and all that other stuff, but we're only a few votes. See, we got to find a way to make this better and less acrimony, because at the end of the day, we're going to need each other. Southern Maryland's we're only good as a group. Individually, we're very small. And I know that from being up here for as long as I have, is that the strength is in our numbers. So to what the good senator said and what the good delegate said, as we move forward, again, we're not always going to agree. Mark and I never agree on anything, but we still are colleagues. We still respect each other. And I do believe we get along just fine, even though I don't think we have a vote in common. But, you know, you would not know that by our discussions and by our attitudes toward each other. And I hope everybody can do the same thing. So we had a motion on the to move the vote. Senator, one more thing.
Since my name was mentioned, I need to be able to respectfully ask to make a quick comment.
Go ahead.
So in reference to Delegate Mark Fisher's comment about Charles County didn't want it, late last year I had a discussion with Darrell Brown, chair of the Charles County Economic Development, and he said Charles County bid on that project. Charles County wanted that project. because we have Amish in Charles County also, you know, on the border there at St. Mary's. We have Amish folks, which I have some good friends over there, known them for years, you know, as a fellow gardener. And so, you know, I have a lot of interaction with Hertzlers and stuff like that. And so the thing is, I just want to correct that record. You know, it's not something we don't want. We want the agricultural sector in Charles County to be very successful. Our county government wants the same thing. And so we're partners with that. Thank you.
And I will say, Senator, to everybody's comments, when I was on Tri-County and it was like being in jail, we didn't want it then. So that may have changed, but I know for a while, it wasn't something that we were fighting for. So, and by your comments, that has changed. But I do remember when, and I think, Mark, you would know it because I wasn't at the meetings with you, but I know at the time that Mark Fisher was on Tri-County, it wasn't something that Charles County was fighting for. So I believe obviously everybody is correct. That's what we're fighting for now. I know when I was on it, we didn't want it. But if there are no other comments, I'd like to move forward. We had a motion to approve, send a letter of support for this bill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Outstanding. So we're going to go ahead and send a letter of support out for Senate Bill 51 and 639, Delegate Davis's bill. We're almost done, guys. It says the recap of last week's meeting due to live stream issues. I don't see that happening. Have there been any text messages about live stream issues this meeting? Has anybody heard anything?
ACT, I've gotten 5 or 6, yes.
We had technical difficulties when it first started, but we have corrected. Everybody should be, it's live streaming now. It was only
Okay.
4 minutes.
Good boy. All right, guys. I'm sorry. You're going to have to work with me on this. I have no idea. I have no idea what we can do. These are all just swing and misses apparently, but hopefully we didn't cut anything short. There'll always be meetings and we'll make them minutes available to the public. Senator Jackson, are you talking to us? Okay, he's not. All right.
CT, new business, when you have that, I wanted to just say.
That's where we're getting ready to go right now. Any new business?
Yes, CT, if I may.
Please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we do have one issue I think that all of us can no doubt agree with, and that is in Calvert, and I don't know if this has happened yet in Charles, so I was hoping you guys could weigh in. In Calvert, we made a commitment, the county commissioners did, to their credit, to spend money, a lot of money, to connect all of the remaining houses in the county with broadband. And I just want to give kudos to SMECO for working with us and to our county commissioners for being willing to put up the money to do that, and to the delegation to being supportive of that. However, Charles County, since you guys have Comcast as your franchisee, if you will, as well as Calvert County, what we found out is that now I'm getting all these emails from people in Calvert County saying, well, now Comcast wants to take me off of a plan where I have unlimited broadband in a certain category, and they want to charge me for the actual usage. And that will be effective in August. And I'm not going to sit here and say that obviously people aren't using more broadband than ever, because I'm sure they are. But it just seems like a really bad look, in Calvert, after we've made this incredible effort to work together to connect everybody. And no sooner are we doing that than Comcast is saying, oh, well, we're going to jack up your monthly fees. And I just think that that's an awful thing. And just wanted to put that out there for the delegation for discussion.
Well, Mark, I appreciate your progressive views on, free market. I have no problem calling Comcast to the table, have them come to a meeting. Whatever you guys want to, we can do that in 2 weeks, unless we have something next week. I try to spread them out and try and get them to come to the table and explain, to you and anybody else. I hadn't heard about this. I've got Verizon, so I don't know. But I'm sure I would be very interested in hearing what they had to say, especially because they come in front of our committee all the time. And I do, when you have the opportunity, regardless of when they want to come here, that you do cross-examine them on that in our committee as well. So if I can just have them come on up to the committee. And committee members, if you guys have requests like that, please let me know. It doesn't have to be official. You can do it through text. I think the more information, the better, because he did bring up a very viable problem. And I've heard some nefarious issues with Comcast. And I would have no problems trying to settle that issue in front of the delegation. Are there any other issues or questions for the good of the community, good of the delegation? Okay. At this point, I think we have everything we need. It looked like the agenda's been covered. We'll send those letters out. Mark, don't let me forget. Hopefully, well, we have the minutes. We'll try and get Comcast on the line. I don't see us having a meeting next week. We'll probably try to have one the week after. Are you guys good with not having meetings every week, or is there an issue with that? Good. Outstanding. All right, guys. Well, this meeting is adjourned, and I really appreciate everybody attending. Thank you for the camaraderie.